Welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, because you definitely don't want to miss out on more riveting tales of history's most mundane moments. And while you're at it, be sure to turn on loop so you can experience the mind-numbing details of today's topic. After all, who wouldn't want to drift off to the sound of ancient bureaucratic snack scheduling? Today, we delve into a subject so thrilling it could almost make you forget your own name. The exceedingly boring history of Roman Senate snack break scheduling conflicts. Yes, you heard that right. The political machinations of the Roman Senate are legendary, filled with tales of power, betrayal, and war. But nestled in the shadows of those grand narratives lies a saga so dull that even the most seasoned historians have been known to yawn profusely while recounting it. Picture this: the ancient Senate, a veritable hotbed of oratory brilliance and strategic maneuvering, is thrown into chaos, not by gladiators or invasions, but by the simple yet catastrophic issue of snack time. The senators, those distinguished gentlemen draped in togas, faced an existential crisis so deep it could only be resolved by a serious debate over when to break for figs and olives. Yes, our forebears were so consumed by the need for mid-session munchies that they often forgot what they were actually arguing about. Imagine the tension in the air as Cicero passionately debates the merits of a proposed law, only to be interrupted by a heated discussion over whether to schedule a snack break before or after the discussion on the import of grain. Oh, but it gets better. These scheduling conflicts sometimes led to the most exasperating consequences, like a senator missing out on his favorite cheese because he was stuck arguing about the merits of the proposed law concerning the length of togas. I mean, how riveting. Niora, yaya, bun, me. So, settle in, grab your dullest snack. Perhaps some unsalted crackers or a cup of lukewarm tea, and prepare to immerse yourself in a world where the biggest scandal was, quite literally, a shortage of dried figs. Let your mind drift, and your eyelids grow heavy as we unravel this extraordinary tale of mediocrity. Now that we've established the riveting premise of snack breaks in the Roman Senate, let us delve further into the utterly forgettable minutiae that surrounded these culinary interruptions. You see, the Romans were not just passionate about their arguments, they were also meticulous, nay, obsessive, when it came to the logistics of snack procurement. They had a veritable army of slaves and attendants dedicated solely to the noble task of providing sustenance to the great minds of Rome. One can only imagine the sheer thrill as these individuals scurried about, creating detailed inventory lists of what would be available during the next session. Picture it: a dusty scroll unfurling to reveal a meticulously penned inventory of items such as honey dates, salted fish, and of course an ample supply of the ever-popular garum, a fermented fish sauce that was frankly as beloved as it was repulsive. The procurement of such items was no laughing matter, mind you. The Senate had its very own committee dedicated to the selection and evaluation of snack items. Yes, a committee, complete with subcommittees, and of course minutes that were taken with the utmost seriousness. These minutes, though lost to time, presumably contained riveting debates on the merits of using porcelain plates versus the more rustic earthenware for serving the snacks. The great debate over material costs and durability must have kept senators on the edge of their marble seats. Money. One can only imagine the heart-stopping drama as a Roman senator stood up, cleared his throat, and passionately proclaimed, "I believe that the use of earthenware is more in keeping with our traditions, while porcelain is an extravagance we cannot afford." The response? A cacophony of murmurs, followed by the thrilling sound of quills scratching furiously against parchment as votes were debated over snackware. Let's not forget the budgeting process, which was more elaborate than one would ever think for something as trivial as a snack break. Senators would line up to argue about allocations for the week's supply of figs and almonds. I demand that we allocate an additional 2 denarii for the purchase of more olives. The people depend on us to provide ample sustenance during our discussions. How could anyone possibly stay awake during such riveting dialogue? In series, one particularly notorious senator, Marcus Flavius Nutritius, was known for his unyielding stance on the importance of high-quality snacks. Rumor has it that he once refused to enter the chamber until his preferred brand of pomegranate juice was delivered, leading to an unprecedented delay of a full hour. The remaining senators were left to twiddle their thumbs, staring at the ceiling, contemplating the various shades of plaster while their beloved Nutritious held them hostage over his thirst. How thrilling! My industry, said I, it had row. The procurement process did not end with delivery, however. Oh no, dear listeners. Once the snacks arrived, they were subjected to rigorous quality control. This involved a panel of senators who took it upon themselves to taste test the offerings, ensuring that everything met the Senate's exacting standards. In what can only be described as a tedious farce, senators would take turns sampling olives while engaging in spirited debates over the appropriateness of their saltiness. One can only picture the scene: a senator, olive in hand, earnestly declaring, "I find this one lacking in brine. We must demand a higher quality next time." And thus, the Senate's snack inventory became a symbol of their commitment to excellence. Or perhaps just another bureaucratic wheel, grinding slowly in the background. Each session began with the clerical duties of confirming the snack list, which included an exhaustive breakdown of expected costs, the sources of procurement, and the anticipated spoilage rate. Spoilage rate? Can you imagine? Well, if we plan to have the figs on Thursday, we might want to consider a moderate climate when sourcing them. Otherwise, we risk losing half our supply to the sweltering sun. Let's not overlook the pivotal role that the great Roman economy played in this saga of snack procurement. Imagine a group of senators passionately discussing the fluctuations in grain prices while simultaneously glancing nervously at the dwindling reserves of cheese. If the price of wheat continues to rise, we may have to consider cutting back on our cheese. Sacrilege! Such was the grave reality for the senators, managing a delicate balance between philosophical discourse and their urgent need for a snack to fuel their debates. Wow. Why? The very thought of those snack breaks led to further discussions about the scheduling of future sessions, which could take weeks to finalize. Should they convene before lunch or after? Would they risk missing the golden hour of the fig harvest if they met at dawn? The tension must have been palpable. As if things weren't tedious enough, there were also official records known as the Senate snack logs. These logs documented everything from the types of snacks provided to the senators' reactions. Senator Plotius felt the figs were too dry. Senator Tullius suggested a new supplier. Oh, what a spectacular waste of parchment. You can only imagine the number of trees sacrificed, all for the sake of ensuring that the Senate was well fed while they argued about issues that, quite frankly, seemed utterly insignificant in the grander scheme of history. Whoa. The bureaucratic implications of snack scheduling resulted in a veritable labyrinth of rules and regulations. There were guidelines dictating how many figs could be consumed per session, making sure that no senator would monopolize the snack table. Senator Quintus, we cannot allow you to consume half the figs again. We have important business to attend to. The thought of a senator hogging the figs was enough to spark a small-scale riot. You could say that Snack fairness was a hot topic of debate, akin to modern discussions on social equity, only much, much duller. Eh. Throughout all of these discussions, there existed an unspoken camaraderie among senators as they bonded over their shared love, nay, obsession with snacks. It was a common ground on which they could agree. The importance of a good fig and the despair of a poorly chosen cheese. They often joked about their luxurious lifestyle, fueled by the finest olives Rome had to offer, while the common people suffered through their dry bread and watered-down wine. Ah, the irony. In the end, the Roman Senate snack breaks were less about the snacks themselves and more about the social dynamics at play. While the philosophical arguments could be dry and drab, the snack breaks offered a welcome distraction. A moment to gather one's thoughts, perhaps silently cursing the senator who dared to suggest a break without snacks. As the hours dragged on, the debates continued, punctuated only by the rustling of parchment and the distant clattering of snack trays. No, azinta, in show, day, easy. I lowered well. So, dear listeners, as you begin to feel the weight of your eyelids and the dull thrum of boredom wraps around you like a cozy blanket, remember the great Roman Senate, a body filled with grand ideas, lofty ideals, and of course, an unwavering commitment to securing the finest figs and olives for their snack breaks. Even in the most mundane of historical narratives, we find a thread of humanity, a reminder that even the most serious of debates can be overshadowed by the simple joys of a well-timed snack. Hey. Snack breaks in the Roman Senate, a seemingly trivial aspect of a grand institution, yet one that reveals the staggering complexity of bureaucratic inefficiencies. To grasp the full extent of this often overlooked topic, we must delve deep into the nitty-gritty details of inventory procedures, material costs, and the labyrinthine bureaucratic rules that govern these monumental snack breaks. Let us begin with the inventory procedures. Picture, if you will, a dusty scroll unrolled in a dimly lit chamber. Here, within the confines of marble columns and weathered stone, a dedicated clerk of the Senate, let's call him Gaius Scribonius, meticulously recorded every morsel that crossed the threshold of the snack table. Gaius, whose title was nothing short of Chief Snack Allocator, a title that, let's face it, sounds far more prestigious than it actually was, utilized a method akin to modern-day inventory management. If one were to squint and ignore centuries of technological advancement, Gaius started his day at dawn, not with the sun rising, but with the sound of a quill scratching against a scroll. He would inventory the nuts, figs, olives, and a plethora of other snacks that would make even the most mundane of grocery lists seem like a carnival of excitement. Each item was not only counted, but also categorized by size, color, and flavor. Yes, flavor. You see, in the Roman Senate, the preference for a particular type of fig could spark a debate more contentious than whether to expand the empire into Gaul. Thus, the flavor profiles of each snack became a matter of public record, subject to scrutiny and, dare I say, passionate discourse. The material costs associated with these snacks were equally as riveting as Gaius's inventory procedures. One could argue that the economic ramifications of snack procurement were almost as impactful as military campaigns. With the empire stretching from the lush valleys of Hispania to the arid deserts of Egypt, the Senate had to deal with a wide array of suppliers. Each supplier had different pricing strategies, often depending on the season, the whims of the gods, or whether they had recently been visited by a particularly charismatic merchant. For instance, a shipment of dates from the palm groves of North Africa could fluctuate wildly in cost depending on the harvest season. If the Senate had to pay too much for its dates, imagine the consequences. A senator might have to skip a meal or, horror of horrors, settle for inferior snacks like stale bread. This could lead to an entire session of the Senate descending into anarchy as senators grappled with their collective disappointment over a lackluster snack. To further complicate matters, the Senate established a snack procurement committee that met every fortnight. Yes, you heard that right. A committee dedicated entirely to discussing snacks. This committee, composed of the most fastidious senators, debated not only the types of snacks that would be served, but also the logistics of delivery. They would summon local merchants to present their wares, causing a parade of fruits, nuts, and cheeses to march through the hallowed halls of the Senate. Imagine the drama as one senator passionately advocated for the inclusion of honey-roasted almonds, while another vehemently opposed them on the grounds of their potential stickiness, thus endangering the precious scrolls that documented the Senate's proceedings. Such discussions could stretch on for hours, with Gaius Scribonius nervously tapping his quill against the table, praying for a resolution so he could finally tally the final inventory and move on with his life. One particularly notorious meeting of the Snack Procurement Committee, which has unfortunately been lost to history, is rumored to have lasted a staggering 8 hours. 8 hours! During which the senators debated the merits of various snack combinations, figs with cheese, olives with bread, and the ever-controversial pairing of wine and dried fruit. As the hours ticked by, tempers flared, and the room grew thick with the scent of uneaten snacks. Ultimately, the committee reached a groundbreaking decision to schedule snack breaks every 2 hours, thus ensuring that no senator would have to endure more than 2 hours of snacking deprivation. However, the implementation of this decision was not without its challenges. The Senate established a series of bureaucratic rules to govern the snack breaks. For example, every senator was required to submit a formal request for snacks no less than 3 days in advance, in triplicate, to ensure that Gaius had ample time to prepare the necessary inventory. Yes, you heard that correctly. Triplicate. This meant that each senator had to fill out the snack request form, which included sections for personal preferences, dietary restrictions, and a space for senators to provide a brief justification for their snack choices. You'd think they were applying for a military campaign instead of merely requesting a handful of nuts. Furthermore, if a senator were to fail to submit their request in a timely manner, they would be subject to the dreaded senatorial snack penalty, which could include anything from being forced to eat the infamous Senate slop, a bland porridge that was the laughingstock of the entire institution, to being publicly scolded during the next session. The Senate took its snacks seriously, and let it be known that there were consequences for failure to comply with the established protocols. Now, if we delve even deeper into the specifics, we should discuss the procurement of beverages to accompany these snacks. It would be a grave injustice to think that snacks existed in a void. After all, what is a fig without a nice goblet of wine? The Senate dictated that all beverages must also be submitted for approval. Wine was the beverage of choice, obviously, as it was essential for lubricating the wheels of debate. However, there were strict guidelines about the type of wine that could be served. The Senate had a list of approved vineyards, and any deviation from this list was met with severe backlash. The cost of this liberal wine consumption quickly became a hot topic, as senators began to question whether all that wine was worth the potential hangover. Some proposed the idea of water breaks, but this was met with such derision that you'd think they were suggesting a ban on all beverages. The very thought of drinking water in the Senate was akin to suggesting that they forgo their togas in favor of trousers. The horror! As the snack break discussions continue to unfold, one must not forget the role of the Senate's infamous snack acolytes, young aides responsible for the logistics of snack delivery. These poor souls would scurry around the Senate, juggling trays filled with delicacies while trying to evade the grasp of senators who, fueled by a wine-fueled fervor, would often reach for snacks. They were the unsung heroes of the Roman Senate, and yet their contributions are rarely acknowledged in the grand tapestry of history. In the end, the snack breaks became a symbol of camaraderie and chaos within the Senate. They served as both a reprieve from the endless debates and a reminder of the absurdity of bureaucratic processes that governed even the simplest pleasure. Senators would emerge from these breaks with crumbs on their togas, laughter ringing in the air, and perhaps a renewed sense of purpose, or at least a renewed sense of snack enthusiasm. Hey. So, as you lie there, perhaps drifting into a delicious slumber, let your mind wander to the great Roman Senate, a place where lofty ideals clashed with the utterly mundane reality of snack management. Who knew that beneath a veneer of history lay the rich, sticky, and sometimes sour flavor of bureaucratic absurdity? Ah, the Roman Senate and its snack breaks. A veritable cornucopia of boredom that reminds us all that even the most staid institutions can't escape the sweet allure of a well-timed snack. Feisty, kind. Oh, as we delve deeper into the labyrinthine world of Roman Senate snack breaks, we uncover a plethora of mundane details that would make even the most enthusiastic historian yawn uncontrollably. Buckle up, dear listener, for we are about to embark on a journey through the utterly unremarkable realm of snack inventory procedures, material costs, and the bureaucratic rules that governed one of the most exciting aspects of Roman political life: munching. Now, imagine, if you will, the Senate chamber, vast and echoing, where grand orations about the future of the Republic were occasionally interrupted by the shuffling of feet and the rustle of togas as senators made their way to the snack tables set up in the way to the snack adjoining atrium. But before those senators could indulge in their midday morsels, a series of meticulous inventory checks had to be performed. Yes, folks, the Roman Senate had an entire system dedicated to ensuring that no one would dare eat the last fig or take the last honey cake without proper authorization. Ay. The snack inventory was overseen by a committee composed of senators who apparently had nothing better to do than count grapes and classify snacks. This committee met on the first Tuesday of each month, unless, of course, that first Tuesday fell on the Ides, in which case the meeting was postponed to the following week, or maybe the week after, depending on the lunar calendar. These meetings, described in excruciating detail in various extant historical texts, often devolved into lengthy debates over the merits of dried versus fresh fruit. Spoiler alert. They ultimately decided that dried fruit was more practical, since it could be stored for longer periods and thus reduce the risk of spoilage. But who knew that such a riveting decision would take hours of deliberation? Naturally, each senator had their own snack preferences, leading to a veritable cornucopia of opinions that only served to further complicate the already tedious process of snack inventory. Some senators were staunch advocates for the inclusion of nuts, often citing their high-protein content as a way to fuel those lengthy speeches. Others insisted on the necessity of olives, arguing that they were a quintessential part of Roman identity. The debates regarding which snacks were deemed worthy of the Senate's limited budget were so impassioned that one senator actually proposed a snack referendum, which, unsurprisingly, went nowhere. No. Now, let's talk about the material costs associated with this entire snacking endeavor. The Senate, of course, had a designated budget for snacks, a figure that was annually adjusted based on previous year's expenditures and projected snack consumption. The cost of a single olive, a mere half denarius. But well, when you factor in the logistics of procurement, transportation by cart from the countryside, storage costs in the Senate's own pantry, and the occasional loss due to spoilage, the expenses could add up faster than you'd think. Ma, do you remember that time when a shipment of figs went missing? A scandal erupted in the Senate that rivaled the greatest political dramas of the day. It turned out that the figs had been misdelivered to a local tavern, where they were promptly devoured by a group of boisterous soldiers who mistook them for a rare delicacy. The fallout from this incident was monumental. A special Senate committee had to be formed to investigate the so-called fig fiasco, which included a lengthy inquiry into the credentials of the fig supplier. How could the Senate possibly function effectively if it couldn't trust its snack providers? This question would echo through the halls of power long after the figs had been consumed. As for the procurement process itself, it was a marvel of inefficiency. Senators would compose detailed orders, often requiring approval from at least 3 different officials, each of whom would then proceed to amend the original order with their own suggestions. One famously convoluted order for honey cakes underwent no less than 5 revisions, ultimately resulting in a shipment of 20 dozen cakes, only for half of them to be deemed unsuitable for consumption due to being delivered with a minor blemish. Exceedingly. Once snacks were procured and accounted for, the next step involved the establishment of strict guidelines surrounding their consumption. Yes, you heard that right. Guidelines. The rules were laid out in a scroll that was circulated amongst the senators, a scroll that was more akin to a legal document than an invitation to indulge. It contained clauses detailing which snacks could be consumed during which types of meetings. Some were strictly off-limits during discussions of taxation, while others were discouraged during debates on military matters. The most absurd rule, however, dictated that only certain snacks could be consumed during the first hour of the session. This was to ensure that senators remained alert during the initial discussions, a noble sentiment that was often rendered moot when the scent of roasted chickpeas wafted through the chamber. As you might imagine, this led to a great deal of sneaking snacks under the table, with senators covertly passing around delicacies like a group of schoolchildren trying to hide their candy from a teacher. The snack break itself, however, was the true spectacle. Imagine the scene. Senators spilling into the atrium, trying to get their hands on the best offerings. It was a chaotic ballet of togas and snacks, a veritable free-for-all. Who could forget the infamous cheese war of 43 BC? It all began when a particularly ambitious senator attempted to monopolize the cheese platter, only to be confronted by an equally ambitious rival. What followed was a series of events that involved the throwing of cheese wheels, and a very unfortunate incident involving a toga and a particularly pungent piece of Roquefort. And what of the poor slaves tasked with serving the snacks? Their days were filled with the drudgery of restocking the platters, only to watch as the senators, in their ravenous quest for sustenance, devoured everything in sight. Reports indicate that one slave devised a cunning plan to hide a few of the best figs in his own tunic, leading to the phrase, "A fig a day keeps the boredom at bay," becoming an unofficial motto among the kitchen staff. As we continue to explore the minutiae of this historical phenomenon, it's impossible to overlook the aftermath of the snack breaks themselves. After the crumbs were swept away, and the last remnants of honey cakes were devoured, senators would often engage in a brief yet spirited debate about the quality of the snacks. Discussions would range from passionate arguments about the merits of figs versus dates, to lengthy discourses on the appropriateness of honey in political discourse. One senator, in a fit of enthusiasm, even proposed that a festival be held in honor of the humble snack breaks. This grand idea, however, was met with mixed reviews. Some senators saw it as a brilliant way to foster unity, while others deemed it a frivolous distraction from more pressing matters of state. Ultimately, the proposal was tabled, much like the leftover figs from the last snack break. As you begin to drift off into a peaceful slumber, let your thoughts linger on the absurdities of the Roman Senate snack breaks. Picture senators pausing mid-debate to savor a morsel of bread or engage in a spirited discussion about the merits of various cheeses, while the fate of the Republic hung in the balance. Perhaps it is this delightful blend of the mundane and the monumental that makes history so captivating. Or perhaps we all just need a snack to keep us awake during the boring bits. Yay! So, next time you reach for a snack during your own moments of ennui, take a moment to reflect on those ancient senators who turned even the most trivial of activities into a saga of bureaucratic complexity. And remember, snack breaks may not have changed the course of history, but they certainly made for some deliciously dull moments in the annals of time. Sweet dreams, and may your snacks always be plentiful, and your bureaucracies endlessly entertaining. None. As we delve deeper into the labyrinth of the Roman senators' snack break scheduling, let us explore the intricate inventory procedures that govern the procurement and distribution of foodstuffs. One might think that the most pressing concerns of the Senate would revolve around military strategy, diplomacy, or the construction of aqueducts. Yet, lurking beneath the surface of this grand institution was a veritable beehive of snack-related bureaucracy. The first step in this marvel of logistical precision was the establishment of the Commissariat of Comestibles, a committee tasked with the solemn duty of overseeing all snack provisions. This august body was composed of senators whose primary qualifications were, surprisingly, their ability to complain about food quality and navigate the complex world of Roman cuisine. Each senator on the committee was assigned a specific type of snack for evaluation. Some would focus on olives, while others specialized in dried meats, or as they were known in the esteemed circles of the Senate, carne desiccated. Once the senators had tasted the snacks, they would convene to discuss their findings. This meeting, often held in the dimly lit corners of the Curia, would devolve into heated debates over the quality of the figs and whether or not they were sufficiently ripe. Senators would brandish their opinions with such fervor that one would swear that the fate of the Republic hung in the balance, rather than the mere choice between a ripe fig and a slightly less ripe one. But the inventory procedures didn't stop at mere taste testing. Oh no, my weary listener. There was a meticulous record-keeping system in place that can only be described as a bureaucratic tour de force. Each item of food was catalogued in a scroll, complete with its origin, date of procurement, and estimated shelf life. A particularly detailed entry might read, "Olives from the grove of Lucius Flavius, harvested on the 5th day of April, 45 BCE. Expiry date, 15th day of July, 45 BCE. Note, slightly brined, may cause mild indigestion." It's hard to imagine that while armies were clashing on distant fields, an official scroll was being diligently updated to track the ripeness of olives. Such was the power of snack-related bureaucracy in the Roman world. Next, let's consider the material costs associated with these snack breaks. The Senate was not merely a debating society. It was also a thriving marketplace of gastronomic delights. Senators had a vested interest in the procurement of snacks, as their popularity could directly influence their standing in the political arena. A senator who provided particularly delectable figs could become the talk of the town, or at least of the Senate chamber, while one who offered stale bread could find themselves ostracized, perhaps even mocked in political cartoons of the day. To circumvent potential financial pitfalls, the Senate instituted a strict budget for snacks. Each senator was assigned a specific number of sesterces for their snack provisions, and any overspending would result in a stern reprimand from the Praetorian prefect of snacks. An official role that, despite its seemingly frivolous name, wielded considerable power. This prefect would scrutinize the budgets with the intensity of a military general reviewing troop movements. in care in she. Picture, if you will, the tension in the Senate as a particularly ambitious senator attempted to secure funding for a lavish spread of exotic fruits from the far reaches of the empire. Perhaps lychees from Asia or pomegranates from the fertile regions of North Africa. Tight. Such extravagance would, of course, require an extensive justification, which might involve an elaborate presentation detailing the nutritional benefits of each fruit, all presented under the guise of promoting the health of the senators in the pursuit of a suit. Good governance. And what of the bureaucratic rules? Oh, dear listener, it would be a disservice not to mention the labyrinthine regulations that govern the timing of these breaks. The Senate had specific rules regarding when a snack break could take place. Senators had to adhere to a strict schedule, which dictated that snack breaks could only be taken during specific times, such as after particularly grueling debates on taxation or in the wake of a particularly dull discussion on land reform. The timing was of utmost importance, as a snack break occurring at the wrong moment could lead to accusations of impropriety or a lack of focus on state matters. Imagine the horror of a senator indulging in a slice of cheese while another was attempting to deliver an impassioned speech about the need for grain distribution in the provinces. The very thought sent shivers down the spines of the most seasoned senators. However, the scheduling of these breaks was not without its conflicts. The Senate had a complex system of snack bracket allocations, which dictated which snacks were to be served at which time. These allocations were often hotly contested, leading to hours of debates that had little to do with the matters of state and more to do with whether a senator could serve spiced nuts during the afternoon session, or if they had to wait until the evening for such luxuries. These debates would often turn into lengthy discussions about the ethics of snacking during serious business, with some senators arguing that the very act of snacking could detract from the dignity of the Senate. Others, however, believed that a well-fed senator was a happy senator, and thus a more productive one. The irony was palpable, as the fate of the Republic hung in the balance, while these men weighed the merits of roasted chickpeas against those of honeyed figs. And we mustn't forget the delightful chaos that ensued when snack preferences overlapped. Imagine two senators both clamoring for the last piece of honey-glazed ham, each armed with arguments about why it should belong to them. One senator might argue that it was his turn to enjoy the ham as he had previously sacrificed his own lunch for the sake of others during a particularly grueling debate on grain taxes. The other senator could counter that he had been the one to bring the ham to the Senate in the first place, thus making him the rightful owner. Such disputes would often lead to a series of snack-related negotiations that rivaled the most complex of treaties. Agreements would be reached, snacks would be traded, and sometimes even alliances would be formed based on the shared enjoyment of particular snack items. I'll support your proposal on land distribution if you promise to share the last piece of candied fruit with me. One senator might whisper to another, sealing their fates with a sugary pact that would echo through the annals of time. As we revel in these details, let us not forget the monumental task of cleaning up after these snack breaks. Once the crumbs had settled, and the remnants of the afternoon's feast lay scattered across the marble floor of the Senate chamber, the servus snackum were summoned. These unfortunate souls, often young slaves, were tasked with the monumental job of clearing away the debris of what could only be described as a culinary battleground. The servus snackum would sweep up crumbs, gather empty amphorae, and ensure that the chamber was pristine before the Senate reconvened. They would often roll their eyes at the senators, who had left behind a veritable buffet of remnants, muttering under their breaths about the senators' inability to keep their snacks contained. It was said that one could identify a senator's snack preferences by the crumbs left in their wake, a veritable breadcrumb trail of political allegiance. Inez. And so, dear listener, as you drift deeper into the realm of slumber, ponder the endless cycle of snack breaks in the Roman Senate, where the truly monumental and the absurdly mundane collided in an epic saga of bureaucracy, disputes, and the quest for the perfect fig. The next time you reach for a snack, remember that history is not just about grand battles and epic speeches. Sometimes it's simply about the art of snacking amidst the chaos of governance. Sweet dreams, and may your snacks always bring you joy, no matter how dull the history may be. As we delve deeper into the annals of the Roman Senate snack break scheduling conflicts, let us not overlook the intricacies of snack inventory procedures. Yes, dear listener, you heard that right. Inventory. An unremarkable task indeed, yet one that was pivotal in the delicate balance of snack supply and demand within the hallowed halls of Roman governance. Imagine a senator, exhausted from the weighty affairs of state, returning to his seat in the Senate chamber, only to find a singular, solitary olive left in the communal bowl. The horror. The Senate's snack master, a position of utmost importance, and, quite frankly, low prestige, had the monumental task of ensuring a steady supply of Munchables. This role was filled by an ever-changing cadre of low-ranking officials who were often more concerned with the state of their own stomachs than the state of the Republic. And these snack masters were responsible for maintaining a meticulous inventory of all snack-related materials: figs, olives, nuts, and the occasionally despised garum-flavored wafer, the least popular choice among senators. They would take their duties so seriously that they often employed a system that could only be described as Byzantine in its complexity. Each snackable item was recorded on a wax tablet, with the date, quantity, and even the senator who last devoured the morsel. Oh, the bureaucracy! If a senator's favorite fig variety was in short supply, the snack master would have to fill out a requisition form that would then be passed through no fewer than 7 layers of clerical staff. One can only imagine the size of the papyrus mountain that formed in the corner of the office as requests for more snacks piled up. There was even a dedicated office space for the Senate's snack logistics coordinator, a position which, in the grand scheme of things, was as influential as it was utterly forgettable. Now, let's take a moment to discuss material costs. The Roman Senate was not immune to the basic principles of supply and demand, and the price of figs could fluctuate wildly based on the harvest. A particularly poor fig season could lead to panic in the snack department. During such times, senators were known to engage in fierce debates over the allocation of resources, debates filled with such passionate rhetoric that one would think they were discussing the fate of the empire rather than the price of a humble snack. Shire. Senators would propose bills with titles like the Fig Fairness Act, which aimed to regulate fig prices and prevent any senator from hoarding the precious fruit. Of course, these bills were often met with resistance from those who had lucrative fig farms, or who simply enjoyed the thrill of a good snack monopoly. Imagine the scathing speeches delivered from the Senate floor, proclaiming that access to figs was a fundamental right of every Roman citizen, while others vehemently argued that the fig was a luxury best reserved for the elite. In the end, the debates rarely concluded in a resolution that pleased everyone. Instead, they would often lead to more snack breaks, an ironic twist that left the very issues at hand unresolved, but ensured that everyone was at least a little less hungry. Another delightful aspect of the Roman Senator's snack culture was the strict rules governing snack consumption. You might find this hard to believe, but yes, there were actual guidelines that dictated how snacks should be approached, consumed, and disposed of. Senators were required to use designated snack napkins, often made from the finest linen, because nothing says I'm a serious politician, like a well-pressed napkin for crumb collection. No way. Failure to adhere to these regulations could result in a stern reprimand from the snack master, who was empowered to issue fines for egregious breaches of snack etiquette. A senator caught double-dipping their fig in the honey pot could face a fine of up to 10 denarii, an amount that was not insignificant in those days. To make matters even more complicated, senators were often required to document their snack consumption on a ledger that would be reviewed quarterly. Yes, you heard that right. A snack audit. The very thought of it prompts one to imagine a legion of bureaucrats poring over scrolls filled with numbers and snack types, verifying that all senators were adhering to the prescribed limits. And let's not forget the occasional backdoor dealings that occurred during the snack breaks. Senators would often negotiate political alliances over shared platters of olives, their fingers slick with oil as they sealed deals that would either propel them to greatness or doom them to obscurity. The whispered promises exchanged over bowls of garum-flavored wafers could alter the course of history, yet none of it was recorded in the annals of the great tales of Roman triumph. How? Imagine the absurdity. An epic tale of political maneuvering that hinged upon the price of a handful of nuts. Yet it was as real as the toga-clad senators who feasted and fumed over their snacks. In the darker corners of the Senate, rumors swirled about the secret snack societies, clandestine groups that would gather in the shadows to discuss the distribution of produce, the best sources for figs, and the merits of olive oils. These societies were often filled with senators who had developed a keen palate for snacks, and their influence could sway decisions in ways that would leave the average citizen perplexed. Yes, the influence of the elite snack enthusiasts. Picture scenes of senators, draped in togas, gathered around a low table in dim lighting, as they clinked their goblets filled with wine and whispered sweet nothings about the latest fig varieties from distant provinces. One could easily imagine the hushed tones and furtive glances, all of them plotting and planning the next great snack heist to obtain the rarest ingredients for their Senate snack platters. And let's not overlook the valuable role of the snack taster, a position that, believe it or not, was quite esteemed in its own right. The snack taster had the critical responsibility of ensuring that all snacks were fit for consumption, a duty that could result in a rather sticky fate for the unprepared. Imagine being the poor soul who had to sample a batch of honey-drizzled figs, only to find that they had gone rancid. The horror! Ideal. The snack taster would often have to sit through tedious Senate sessions, all while nursing a stomach that had borne the brunt of questionable snack choices. It was said that the position was a double-edged sword. Not only did you have the privilege of tasting the finest snacks, but you were also at a constant risk of losing your lunch, quite literally. Yet, despite the tedium, the drama, and the absurdities of it all, the snack breaks continued unabated. As senators debated the minutiae of legislation, they remained forever bound to the whims of their appetites. The Senate chamber became a cacophony of crunching, slurping, and the occasional exclamation of delight as a particularly ripe fig was savored. So, as you drift off into slumber, let your mind wander through the echoes of history, where the stakes were high and the snacks were plentiful. The Roman Senate's snack breaks were more than just a mundane detail. They were a microcosm of the human experience, filled with desires, negotiations, and above all, an unrelenting quest for the perfect bite amidst the chaos of political life. May your dreams be filled with the delightful absurdity of it all. And may your snacks, like the figs of yore, always be ripe and satisfied. As we delve further into the exceedingly mundane world of the Roman Senate snack break scheduling conflicts, It's essential to recognize the complexity of their inventory procedures. You see, snacking in ancient Rome wasn't merely about indulgence. It involved an intricate ballet of logistics and bureaucracy that would make even the most seasoned modern-day supply chain manager weep with boredom. Ah, well, whoa, I. To begin with, you had the Senate's official snack procurement committee, a group so illustrious that their very existence was a testament to the trifles of governance. Now, this committee was responsible for maintaining an exhaustive inventory of edible delights. The Romans, being a people of infinite organization, and perhaps a hint of obsession, created an elaborate scroll system that documented every fig, olive, and piece of bread consumed by the Senate. Imagine scrolls upon scrolls, meticulously rolled and tied with twine, each bearing annotations that would make even the dullest accountant nod off in a stupor. In a typical week, this committee would engage in the tedious activity of counting figs. Yes, figs. They would count them, weigh them, and, if necessary, engage in the rigorous process of taste testing. This was not just a casual nibble. It was deeply serious work. The chosen senators would sit in a dimly lit room, surrounded by baskets overflowing with various edible items, each one vying for the coveted status of Senate-approved snack. The process could take days, and by the end, many senators would have developed a strong aversion to figs, whether from overindulgence or sheer boredom. Material costs also played a crucial role in these snack procurement discussions. The senators had to consider the fluctuating prices of goods. One day, a sack of olives might cost a mere 2 denarii, but the next day, due to the fickle nature of the Mediterranean weather, or a sudden influx of barbarian raids disrupting trade routes, they could skyrocket to 5 denarii. Imagine the riveting discussions that ensued over these price hikes. It was enough to make even the most ardent supporter of bread and circuses question their life choices. The budgeting process, if we can even call it that, was a drama all its own. Each senator would present their proposed snack budget, often accompanied by a grand speech filled with impassioned rhetoric about the importance of figs in fostering civil discourse. Figs, one senator once declared, are the very sustenance of our democracy. There were murmurs of agreement, followed by murmurs of hunger. Yes, a true culinary conundrum if there ever was one. But let's not forget the bureaucratic rules that governed the snack breaks themselves. The Senate had an unwritten code, which scholars later dubbed the Fig Proclamation of 63 BC, dictating that no senator could consume a snack of any kind without first declaring their intent aloud. This led to some rather peculiar moments. Picture a stern-faced senator standing up, clearing his throat and proclaiming, "I hereby declare my intention to consume 1 olive and 1 piece of bread." It was a spectacle that turned the Senate chamber into a veritable theater of the absurd. Of course, there were those who viewed this as an opportunity for political maneuvering. By declaring what they would eat before others, senators could subtly influence the snack choices of their colleagues. Oh, he has chosen the bread. How terrible for his political standing, one might think, while secretly hoping that the bread would be stale. Now, we must touch upon the truly riveting subject of snack break scheduling conflicts. The Senate had a rotating schedule for snack breaks to ensure that every senator received their fair share of snack time. However, the scheduling was fraught with tension. One senator would invariably propose a break just as another was about to make a particularly tedious speech on the merits of grain taxation. "Do we not have a right to our bread?" they would ask, their stomachs growling louder than their voices. And thus, a cacophony of grumbles would ensue, leading to a debate that could stretch on longer than the Senate's term itself. Some senators became notorious for their snack break lobbying, which involved not only advocating for their preferred snacks, but also negotiating break times that suited their appetites. "I propose we extend the break to allow for a more thorough sampling of the figs," one senator would cry, only to be met with the eye rolls of those who had already ingested too many figs the previous week. The negotiations were endless, with senators pulling out all the stops to secure their snack time, including bribery with promises of future olive oil supplies, or threats of withholding support on key legislation. No. Adding another layer of drama, there were occasional snack break shortages. One infamous incident in 59 BC involved an unexpected shipment of spoiled figs. The Senate descended into chaos as senators debated whether to declare a state of emergency or simply endure the situation while seated on their benches, their stomachs grumbling in unison. "We cannot allow our esteemed chamber to be deprived of the fig," one senator exclaimed, dramatically clutching his stomach. They ultimately decided to postpone snack breaks indefinitely until proper figs could be secured, leading to an unprecedented period of snack-related unrest in the Senate. And let's not forget the media coverage. Yes, the Roman equivalent of the tabloids had a field day with snack break incidents. Senator X caught sneaking figs during a debate, or Senate Leader Y proposes radical fig reform, were headlines that sent shockwaves through the population. Citizens began to monitor snack break schedules with the dedication of modern-day sports fans. "Did you see the line for the figs today?" They would whisper conspiratorially in the marketplace, as if they were discussing the latest gladiatorial match. This, of course, led to an entire subculture of snack break analysts, people who would pore over scrolls of past snack break dates and snack choices, searching for patterns and making predictions about future breaks. Before long, the mundane minutiae of snack breaks overtook actual legislative humor. Topics that once held weight, the construction of roads, the management of grain supplies, were overshadowed by discussions of snack break schedules and the relative merits of figs versus olives. The great debates of Roman history became lost amid the clamor for the perfect snack. Some historians have even gone so far as to argue that the snack break was the true engine of Roman democracy, rather than the grand speeches or impressive military conquests. If only they had focused more on the figs and less on the wars. Perhaps the empire would have endured longer. They would muse in boredom. Oily times. So here we are, at the cusp of history, floating in the vast sea of snack break, scheduling conflicts, material costs, and the unending bureaucracy of the Roman Senate. As you drift off to sleep, consider the lessons learned from this insatiable appetite for snacks amidst political chaos. May your dreams be filled with these absurdities, and may you find joy in the minutiae, just as the great senators of Rome once did, with a fig in one hand and a loaf of bread in the other. The Roman Senate, a bastion of political thought and governance, was not merely a platform for orators to wax poetic about the fate of empires. No, dear listener, much like a modern-day office worker blissfully distracted by the siren call of a vending machine, these senators were caught in a web of snack break scheduling conflicts that rivaled the complexity of their political machinations. And to truly appreciate the depths of this bureaucratic quagmire, we must delve into the intricacies of the inventory procedures that governed snack supplies. Imagine, if you will, a dusty storage room in the heart of the Curia, filled with crates of dried fruits, nuts, and the occasional loaf of stale bread. Here, a cadre of subordinates, likely the least respected members of the Senate staff, toiled away meticulously tracking the quantities of figs and olives. They recorded each item on wax tablets, an ancient and decidedly slow method that left much to be desired in terms of efficiency. But the meticulous nature of these inventory procedures was both a source of pride and frustration. Certain senators, perhaps those with a penchant for the dramatic, would insist that the figs must be of the highest quality, imported from the fertile lands of Asia Minor. No inferior fig would do for the esteemed senators, and woe betide the clerk who dared to present a substandard fruit during an important snack break. In the eyes of these political powerhouses, a snack was not merely sustenance, but a reflection of their status and taste. As we drift further into the mundane, let us discuss the material costs associated with the procurement of these delectable snacks. The Senate maintained a budget which allocated funds for various essential supplies, including the aforementioned figs and olives, but also for honey, barley cakes, and even the occasional delicacy of pickled fish, an acquired taste, to be sure. The debates over these costs could rival those of military expenditures. Senators, fueled by the promise of a satisfying snack break, would argue over the merits of local versus exotic sourcing. Why buy figs from the provinces when you could have them flown in from the far reaches of the Mediterranean? But what most people don't realize is that the budgetary discussions surrounding snack procurement were steeped in layers of red tape, each more boring than the last. The Senate had elaborate protocols for any expenditure, especially those involving food. A motion would be introduced, debated, amended, and redebated to the point where the original purpose of the discussion was lost entirely. Senators would find themselves deep in a bureaucratic morass, arguing about the merits of spending 2 denarii on a sack of olives versus the 5 denarii required for a superior premium selection. It was a process that could take weeks, if not months, ultimately leading to decisions that seemed trivial at best. Of course, when it came time to actually schedule the snack breaks, the conflicts became nearly comical in their absurdity. Every senator had their own preferred time. Some wanted a morning snack to fuel their debates, while others insisted the afternoon was a more appropriate time to indulge. Scheduling these breaks became a delicate dance, requiring negotiation skills that would put modern-day diplomats to shame. The senators employed a system of rotating snack breaks, yet even this simple solution was fraught with complications. Picture the scene. A senator, let's call him Gaius, rising to address his fellow senators. I propose we have our snack break at the 3rd hour, only to be met with a chorus of groans. We had figs last time, Gaius. I demand olives. Another senator, Lucius, would retort. Gaius, undeterred, would press on. But the figs are more nutritious. They provide energy for our important discussions. And so, the debate would rage on, completely oblivious to the pressing matters of state that awaited their attention. As the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the Snack Break Scheduling Committee was born. This committee, a motley crew of senators who drew the short straw, was tasked with the unenviable job of organizing the timing and menu of the snacks. Their meetings devolved into endless discussions about the merits of various nut types. Was it better to serve almonds or walnuts? Would the senators prefer salted or unsalted nuts? And what about the ever-controversial topic of honey versus vinegar for dipping? In the midst of all this, the true tragedy of the Roman snack breaks emerged, the snacks themselves. In their quest for perfection, the senators often overlooked the simple joys of snacking. They debated endlessly about the ideal fig variety, yet when it came time for the actual snack break, they often ended up with whatever was available, usually a hodgepodge of leftovers from previous meetings. The pristine figs from Asia Minor were often replaced by shriveled specimens that had been misfiled in the back of the storeroom, while the olives were sometimes so oversalted that they could be used as ammunition during the occasional Senate squabble. No, in chaos, would ya? But fear not, for the senators were resourceful. If they were met with a less than ideal snack, they would engage in creative culinary experiments. Dried figs were often mashed and mixed with whatever grains were on hand. forming a sort of paste that would be smeared onto bread. This concoction, known as senatorial delight, became a staple of snack breaks despite its dubious flavor. The senators would argue passionately about the nutritional value of this paste, with some insisting it was a superfood that would fuel their political ambition. More. The irony was not lost on history's observers. Great debates about the future of Rome, the weight of civic duty, and the principles of democracy were often overshadowed by these culinary concoctions. The snack breaks became a microcosm of the Senate itself, filled with grand ideas and lofty ambitions, but ultimately reduced to the absurdity of snack choices. And what of the senators' health? Surely, you might wonder, with all these snacks, they would have given thought to the nutritional implications of their choices. Alas, dear listener, that was not to be. The senators often indulged themselves with abandon, for who could resist the siren call of a well-timed snack? The result was that many a senator found their toga becoming a bit more snug as the years rolled on. Yet, they remained blissfully unaware of their expanding waistlines, too engaged in discussions of olives and figs to notice the creeping threat of a sedentary lifestyle. Bandivar, wow, Wanyewa. Thus, the legacy of the snack break scheduling conflicts in the Roman Senate remains a fascinating, albeit incredibly dull, chapter in the annals of history. It reminds us that even within the halls of power, the minutiae of daily life can take precedence over matters of great importance. In the grand scheme of things, the fate of empires may hinge on a single vote, but on any given day, it might just as easily hinge on the timing of a snack break. And so, as you prepare to drift off into the land of dreams, ponder the absurdity of it all. The bureaucratic nightmare of snack breaks, the endless debates over figs and olives, and the senators who fought valiantly for the right to snack in peace. May your dreams be as delightfully mundane as the history that has brought us here, where political aspirations collide with the most trivial of pursuits. And there you have it, folks. The riveting saga of the Roman Senate snack break scheduling conflicts, where the most pressing issue was whether to munch on olives or indulge in stale bread while debating the fate of the empire. Who knew that behind the grandeur of toga-clad senators lay a world of petty disputes over snack times? It's almost as exciting as watching paint dry, but with more ancient crumbs. So, next time you're pondering the great events of history, remember, while emperors were conquering lands, senators were busy conquering their hunger and failing miserably at it. Don't forget to share your thoughts on which snack would have won the Roman culinary battle in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the snack-laden halls of ancient governance, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more mind-numbingly dull historical deep dives. And remember, turn on loop, because who wouldn't want to relive the thrilling saga of Senate snacking over and over again?